Hello, everybody. You're watching Black Comics Universe presented by Peep Game Comics, exclusively here on The Experience. Please help us out by hitting share and giving us a like and follow. Then make sure to tune in to our original programming 7 days a week. And the Black Comics Universe is a part of that. It streams every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Tonight, I'm joined by my friends Alverne Ball and Stacy Robinson. They're the creators of they're creators of Across the Tracks, Remembering Greenwood, Black Wall Street, and the Tulsa Race Massacre. How you guys doing this afternoon?
Pretty good.
Great. Doing awesome.
You got my man Al is in the cabana. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting conversation. I don't think I've ever talked to you, Al, in person ever. This might be the first time.
Yeah, I mean like that.
Yeah. But we work together. But like this first time talking, and me and Stacy, I haven't seen Stacy since SoulCon. I think I might have crossed off everybody off the SoulCon list for this show, but not quite. I think I got a couple stragglers, but it's always good to catch up with everybody. And it's been a while since, and a lot of stuff has happened in the last time I've talked to you guys. I wanted to start with, before we actually, talk about the book. I read the foreword to the book, and Al, you were talking about how the way you guys came together on this book was, you called it Kismet. Can you explain how you guys came together for this particular book?
Yeah, I guess it is Kismet. Like I said, I recall the story of emailing John about sending him a pitch on doing something on Greenwood, and then him going, funny you should say that because I just got off the phone with Stacy or something like that, or maybe he's saying Stacy emailed him too, saying that we should do something on Greenwood. And then next thing I know, John's like, since you already done pretty much the research, you know about this, right? Would you be interested in writing it? And it was kind of like when they got the email, I literally looked around the room. I was like, who, me, right? And I was like, yeah, I'd be interested, right? He's like, do you know Stacy? I'm like, no, I don't know Stacy. I've heard the name, but I don't know. He's like, I got to get you two connected because I think he'd be perfect for this thing. And I was just like, okay, so, and it just kind of happened that way. So in the idea, yeah, I think it's Kismet that me and Stacy were talking about it, found each other, and we found John, and John was the connection or the bolt between the two. Now Stacy has a different story about how this came.
Okay, cool. And before we go any further, John, when we mentioned John, we're talking about John Jennings, the head of Megascope, the imprint that's published this book. But go ahead, Stacy.
Yeah. So it was interesting because talking to John, like we share projects. We're always talking about what we're working on, and he's always telling me teams that he's putting together. And I was not the original artist he had lined up for the book.
Really?
And when he told me about the book, I was like, ooh, I want that. I want to do that. I want that book. He's like, you want to do it? You said you don't have time. I was like, yeah, I want that. Because it's in line with my research. My research is my research looks at Black spaces of agency. What were our real Wakandas, right? And so this is right along the lines of my research. And I felt like I knew the deadline was tight because it was not in the original schedule for the first line of books to drop through Megascope. And it was not on the schedule originally. But if we got it done, we had a small window of about 2 months to get the book out. And so you look at those 50 pages, of art, all of that was done in a 2 month time period. And and I had to, I'm glad John said yes, because when I said I wanted it, he was like, you want it? You sure you want it? I was like, yeah, I want it, And he said yes to it. So that's how that worked. Yeah. Alverne and I hit it off immediately.
I have to admit, I know that you are notorious for pushing out work fast. Like you up there with people that don't mess around when it's time to when you have to put in that work, man. So that is an amazing that's an amazing story. Like 2 months. Like how is that?
I mean,
like to be honest, everybody's on notice. I don't want to hear again about another book to have taken a month to come out, man. It's like. I mean, I get it, but come on, man. Every time I see that, like I can tell you right now, if Mike Watson is watching, I'm letting him know that my man Stacy put out a book in 2 months. So
I mean,
I got a ton of people on
Yo, don't do Mike Watson like that.
I got a ton of people on notice.
No. And it came with a lot of sacrifices. Like it was, I mean, fortunately, I was on a teaching leave, so I was on a fellowship, and that allowed for some time to work on the book. I live a single life, right? That allows time.
Yeah.
That allows time. My son who is with me, my daughter's in college, and my son is with me. He's very self-sufficient. He don't want to hang out with dad too much,
Right.
A lot of things lined up perfectly in order to be able to get this book out. But it was a lot of 16-hour days, and taking a nap, waking back up, going to bed 3 a.m., waking back up at 6 or 7, and grinding. And that's how it got done.
Right. Now, this book comes on the heels of, this particular story, the Tulsa race massacre, becoming very popular in pop culture with the shows Watchmen and Lovecraft Country. Mm-hmm. What was it about the way they depicted those stories that, made you want to, tell the story in more depth? Like, what did you think was missing, or what did you think you could bring to this story that would even make it even more enlightening?
For me, I knew from the instant when people start talking about Black Wall Street and Tulsa, for me, it was just the people. When doing the research, all I kept hearing was that, producers and all this stuff kept coming down to trying to get family rights to like the stories, but all they wanted to talk about was the massacre. And I'm like, there's more than just the massacre. There's these people that lived before the massacre and all this great stuff they did. And for me, I was more interested in finding out about those people and about how did a town that's part of a larger city, really, it's not like there are two different towns. There's really just one city. How it was constructed? How did it come to be? How did Black Wall Street, this thing that when you talk about it, feels like a myth? It feels like something like, feels like it's Themyscira or it's Wakanda. Like it only existed in the imagination, but it was a real place. And for me, that became the thing for me, was that I wanted to talk about the people and the places that existed and not just the destruction of American history, of Black history, because that's all I feel like we ever hear is the destruction of our culture, but we don't hear about the thing that how it got made, or where it started. I'm in LA right now. I was driving over Sunset, and I saw a billboard that Discovery Channel is doing a whole Tulsa race massacre thing. That's produced by Russell Westbrook, and all I kept thinking, I wonder if that's like what they show is like Tulsa on fire and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It'd be really cool if they did the opposite. I wonder if they're going to go through and show it from beginning to end, as this documentary type of thing. But all I kept thinking when I saw the poster was that that's not the poster I would have done. I would have done a different poster. I would have done the image on our cover, where you're showing Black faces and showing them in this press thing or this great community. Now, that's not to say there was, there's a dark side to everything, but I would have shown that instead of just, the town burning. But that's me. But again, I don't want to go on a tangent about these things. Sorry.
No. We're here for tangents. What do you, Stacy? What did you want to bring to the story?
Once again, this story is about the people, right? But in the book, what you will not see is the torture porn, right? You will not see, bodies riddled with bullets. You will not see bodies on fire. You will not, you won't get that, I almost want to say the word satisfaction that a lot of people like to see, right? A reference to the destruction of us. And there are some storytelling devices that I leaned on in order to play between two different age groups, two different readerships for this book as well. So if you are a teen, picking up this book or a young adult picking up this book, you'll be able to enjoy it, I believe. But even if you were, let's say, a middle schooler, you would be able to pick up this book. And parents, I really try to play with the storytelling in ways that would allow for parents to pick up the books, and K through 12 teachers would be able to pick up the book as well. And like, you won't see any muzzle flares, right? But I do show, this story is these Black people were fighting back, right?
Right.
So you see that in the book, but also, I didn't feel the need to necessarily show muzzle flares, and I wasn't sure if that would be a determining factor in whether a parent or an educator would not pick up the book, right? So I wanted to play with that a little bit. Another thing I did was I wanted to show moments of joy, right? So, we all know that the destruction is coming. That's the story. But there were moments where I could show some whimsy, and I wanted to show that as well. We'll see if the audience appreciates that or not, but I really tried to make it about the people. And I also tried to leave the story, to the best of my ability, leaving some hope right at the end of it, because the community of Greenwood survived.
Right.
Their descendants, they survived. And, I did not want to create, even though I was leaning into Alverne's narrative, there was some liberty for me to add narrative as well. And I took the liberty to leave the readership with some hope for the future, right? We'll see how it's received.
That was the biggest thing that stood out for me, that, I did not know that there were survivors. I did not know that those survivors came back and rebuilt Tulsa, rebuilt that town, Greenwood. I didn't know that. It was like the depictions that we see in the films, everything is so absolute. Like once everything was bombed, and all we are left with is the trauma from, there's no sense of them coming back and rebuilding and replacing what was taken. There's no sense of them carrying on the legacy that was there. And it makes it, and so it gives the impression that this is how it always happens. This is how it all, it's like, and it gets to the point where those moments of joy that you see in certain films, it comes with a little trepidation, because you can sense the build up to the traumatic moments. It was, especially, I know that's to be the case, especially in, they really played it up in Lovecraft Country. It was like, it was such tension, no matter how much you enjoyed that scene and how well they acted, and the costumes and everything, every single scene, it was like it was building up the anxiety watching that. But I'm happy to share with, like you were saying, share with parents or share with young people that you do not have that sense of anxiety reading this book. You don't get that sense of trepidation, reading the pages of this book, even when you actually get to the point where you're actually describing and talking about the massacre itself. you don't feel the horror behind it. And I think that's, it's a really amazing how when y'all kind of got to that point where you had to actually talk about it and describe and lay those things out, you did it in such a way that it wasn't horrific. It was, but at the same time, it wasn't a historical account. Like some of these pages, Stacy, you really, put your foot in this, man.
Thank you. The page that's up right now is one of my favorite pages. Shouts out to John Jennings, who did the color work on that page.
Where do y'all find the time? Y'all are crazy.
Yo, you know what? I'm telling you, it took a team effort. So Damien,
Alverne know exactly what I'm talking about. I was like, y'all are maniacs.
Yeah, Damien Duffy did the lettering, for the book.
He's another one. Yeah. Oh, so this is a Black Kirby. Okay.
Yeah. Black Kirby, Tan Lee.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Tan Lee. Right.
Yeah. And my son Solomon, I think he colored like 32 pages in the book.
Okay.
Two of my former students, one Anthony Moncada, he colored several pages in the book, and Alex Batchelor, a former student, she colored pages in the book as well. So I mean, it was, we got the book out, like we got it out, and we leaned on some storytelling, like I said, some coloring devices, some storytelling techniques. Like the highlights are only on the foreground figures, and everything in the background is flat colored. And we needed a quick but consistent storytelling style. And the highlight is a simple line, right? So there's like, we played with it a lot, like, and we tried to give it some vibrancy, like it's vibrant, because Black history happened in color. Like this is American history, but it's Black history, and it happened in color. It did not happen in black and white, and it did not happen in sepia tone. It happened in full color, So it's important to, I think it connects the audience in a particular way as well to look at this Black opulence, right? This vibrancy and to see that. And I wanted the audience to connect, to that as well. And we'll, like I said, we will see how it is received. But those are some of the choices that I made in trying my best to keep the deadline and give honor to not only the ancestors and survivors of the District of Greenwood, but also to give honor to Alverne's story.
Yes, and to that, Alverne, where did your research start for this?
Oh man, gosh, where did it start? Oh God, it actually started long before I really got on the book. I was working with a group of writers and producers out here in LA. They're all we're all Black, and we were always talking about Greenwood, and we were trying to construct this story on how to do it. And we were all on Snapchat, and then one day I just took the liberty, like I got invited to it through my writing partner, and as they started talking about it, I was like, I could just see it. And so one day I just took the liberty and wrote out this whole story. Like, look, this is how we make this, a mini series or a show. And in doing that, I was talking to a friend of mine, Naveed Mikalargi, and we were talking about this, this thing that I had wrote. And he goes, "You do comics, right?" He goes, I was like, "Yeah." He goes, This would be so cool as a comic." And when he said it, it's like a light bulb hit. And I was like, Oh. Yeah. And then when John came to me, he goes, "Hey, would you like to write this thing?" I had already done some research, but then I was like, "Oh man, I got to dig deeper." So I went on to Amazon. And I just started searching for material, books that, that talked about, Tulsa in general, and not just the massacre, but Tulsa as this place, and Greenwood as this place. And one of the things I found was that that I didn't even know existed. Back in 1987, they did almost like a 9/11 report. Think about this. In 97, they did a 9/11 report on something that happened in 1931, so it was this idea that, but in this report, they literally went through line by line almost and talked about all the people that were killed, all the damage, and so I had like 3 or 4 different resources when writing this book, and then there was a whole bunch of online resources I found. So it was just like I was literally going through between, I had to be between the Greenwood Cultural Center and these 4 or 5 books. I was literally jumping back and forth trying to make sure the narrative made sense, and like going, oh man, they would give me this date, and it'd be like a line sometime in the book. In 1919 or 1921, the soldiers returned home, from to Tulsa, and then another thing, it would talk about those soldiers like for like another paragraph, and I was just like, oh my god, it's like, but there's no set piece of history because a lot of what happened there was destroyed. So it's like a lot of it is people, like a story that's been passed down from a generation to generation. And then I found this documentary on YouTube where they had actual real survivors and their children talking about what it was like to have lived in Greenwood, and talking about what it was like to survive that night. And I thought, oh my God, this is where it's at. These are the people. And like, and whoever did this documentary, it's like just the first time anybody's the firsthand accounts. And most of those people are dead now. So I was like, okay, I got to go in and try to tell the story as best I can, piecing together all these different pieces of research. And as Stacy will tell you, sometimes you're hearing about a name, but you can't find a picture. You can't find a living family member for this person. All you hear is a name, and that this person existed in history because there's some record of them in some, that was found in some burned out building, but there's a ledger that they existed, or that they had this property, but everything about them is gone other than they existed in this town. So it was just trying to find enough, for me it was trying to find enough names and material that we could link it and show people that these people existed, that this town and everything about it existed. This wasn't just some love affair or some fantasy place that we talk about, like a kumbaya moment for Black people to uplift themselves. This was a thing that existed. So you could point to it and go, look, if they could do it, we sure as hell can do it now. That I think that's how it was for me in the research of it.
Mm-hmm. We got I want to follow up the same question with you, Stacy, but we have a couple questions here. One you can one is actually straight to you from Scott James. Like it says, who are some of your influences?
Who are some of my influences for visual storytelling? Scott James, mind your business. You trying to get the blueprints. Scott James trying to get the blueprints. No, let me tell you. I mean, honestly, for visual storytelling, I mean, it is interesting because my influences are like Ernie Barnes and Charles Bibbs, Charles White, Gil Kane, John Byrne. There's so many influences there. I mean, they're influences that Maddie Clareween, who did the album covers for Miles Davis's Bitches Brew, for example, and Santana's Abraxas album cover. There's so many artists. Elizabeth Catlett, Cynthia St. James. I mean, a lot of these are fine artists, right? Mm-hmm. But they influence the way that I think about graphic storytelling. So my influences come from comics and also outside of comics as well. Ezra Jack Keats, right? One of my favorite children's book storytellers, and you will, Kadir Nelson. I mean, the influences are they're on my desk. They're, in my record collection. Overton Lloyd, Pedro Bell, both of them who did a lot of P-Funk, album art back in the day. Shoot, I mean, I could go on and on and on, right? The influences they're vast and they're all over the place.
Yeah, definitely, man. And then one more. Well, I think we covered how the historical accuracy of this book is definitely well researched and thoroughly researched and whatnot.
But do I have more to address that? So, with that, there are 4 figures in the book that I did not have um, I had no visual reference for, right?
Mm.
I had to make up a reference. And that was the thing. That was those 4 pages are pages that some of the last pages that I did, because I did the best that I could to find likenesses. And I even wanted to make a note that this is not, these are not the likenesses. And that was something that got missed, and something I wanted to put in the book, that some of the likenesses I had to make up, because I really did want to be as historically accurate as possible. Even to the point of where the tent city, when I showed the tent city did not look like that, right? But I didn't know that until after I had done more research, right? Because I was doing research as I was making it. So, I mean, it was, I tried to be as accurate as possible with all the depictions. Like I said, most of the people, there were pictures of, literally, I might only have been able to find one picture of a person, and that one picture might have been on like a news segment that came out many years ago of someone reporting on that particular person, right? So it was, man, the research was, I tried to be as historically accurate as possible as a storyteller. But some of those likenesses I had to make up for the sake of telling the story.
All right, cool.
And that was an editorial choice as well. So that was something that was approved by the editors.
All right, cool. Coming up on the half, and I just wanted to remind everybody that you're watching Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics, exclusively here on The Experience. Please help us out by hitting share and give us a like and a follow. And then make sure to tune in for our original programming 7 days a week. All right, so I want to move on to, and speaking of which, these historical figures, because they're not characters, they're real life people. Was there anyone in particular that stood out to either of you that is like you consider to be your favorite?
For me, I think it had to be either J.B. Stratford. That dude, man, I think he might have been my favorite. That dude was all about it. Like when you say you didn't want that smoke, he was that guy that was like, oh yeah, I do. From what I read, just like he was, like I said, he was the son of a slave. It's in the book, and he had, I think, 2 or 3 law degrees. Literally when you talk about the definition of pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, he was that dude. But one of the things that was interesting was that in my research, when they talk about right before the massacre, he was the dude that kept like pissing everybody off in Tulsa, because every time there would be like these Jim Crow laws against black folks, he was like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna take this to court. And he would win like every one of his court. So people were just pissed off that this black dude just kept taking shit to court and kept showing up how racist these Jim Crow laws were. And then right before he was one of the original guys that when you see them meet at the theater right before before the white mob talks about they're going to lynch this young boy for possibly assaulting his white woman. He's the dude that's like, yo, grab y'all guns, we going down to the courthouse. None of this getting going down. J.B. Stratford was that dude, and he's a lawyer. But he was one of like the centerpieces of that town that was just like, yo, we ain't taking no shit. They come over here, we ain't doing it. We don't go over there doing that. So J.B. Stratford was that dude. I think I just like everything about him. It just made me want to read more and more about him. And then he created the Stratford Hotel that at the time it was the biggest black-owned hotel in the country that serviced black folks. That's amazing. When you think about like in Chicago, there's the Palmer House. That thing's been around for hundreds of years, and it was basically he had the version of the Palmer House that when you look at the Green Book. For people that don't know about the Green Book, it was this book that black folks used to basically tell them where they could stay and what town they could stay in, during Jim Crow, especially if you're going into the South, where it was safe for you to be at. And at the top of that list was the Stratford Hotel. It was the most luxurious hotel in the South. That says a lot about what this dude accomplished. And he was still out here fighting and doing all his lawyering and stuff to the point, I can just imagine him like walking up the street, and he walked on the other side of town. And they look at him like, "Are you serious? This dude is gonna be walking? He's walking through?" And he's just like, "Hell yeah!" Like he's got that that I want to say that Goldie feel about him, like, from Superfly. I wish it would,
Right.
But that's JB Stratford's that dude for me.
JB Stratford. Okay, what about you, Stacy?
Simon Barry. I wanted to show some of these pages, but I don't think I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Well, I could. Yeah.
Yes,
Simon Barry was one of my favorite. I mean, you talk about black businesses. Like, I mean, he started a cab company. Then, I'm getting so much of the history. He started a bus company after that. Then, a garage to service the vehicles and everything. So it was, he's definitely my favorite figure in the book, because I believe that, as much as we talk about Afrofuturism and Black liberated futures, it looks like a particular thing. It looks like business ownership. It looks like supplying jobs, right, for the community. And it looks like creating systems of sustainability, right? So that is definitely my favorite figure in the book.
I want to interject that Barry, he's my second favorite, and the reason is because what we couldn't put in the book, because it happens later, is that Barry starts one of the first actual aviation charter companies in Tulsa, and basically he has white and black customers. That he's basically he's the airport that you go in and out of. And what was cool about it is that he takes that bus service, and when the city later on, after they start to rebuild everything, the city wants to buy out his bus service. He tells them, sure, you can buy my bus service, but there's one thing you got to do. There can be no Jim Crow laws. Secondly, the buses must be for everybody, black and white, and they have to go extend from one end of the city to the next. And so he basically negotiated that basically black folks could ride the bus and not have to sit in the back of it. And then on top of that, when they bought all of his buses, he made them basically in his contract say, okay, this section of the city that y'all gonna rebuild anyway, you're gonna have this, and it's gonna be parks, there's gonna be libraries there, and it's gonna be for colored folk. And so it's really cool. That dude, you talk about business now, that dude is the epitome of, he's the Jay-Z of his times, or whoever you want to call it. That he literally when they rebuilt Greenwood, he literally sold just about everything he had, but he did it and gave it all into the community. That dude is a beast. We can't even touch on all the other businesses this dude had.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I love most about the book, that just the attention to those details is extremely inspiring, and it does provide hope where the other depictions of this particular story, sort of this, like, totally omits it. Actually, they don't really talk about how these people rebuilt this town. When you get to the actual massacre itself, how did you guys approach that particular part of the story, and like what did you talk about certain things that you wanted to make sure wasn't there, as far as like muzzle flares and stuff like that? How did you guys approach that particular part of the story and depicting that and writing it?
For me, I knew going in from day one, when we were pitching the story, the first thing I told John, and I think all the editors, that there would be no black death. There would be no black porn, no black death porn. That was my biggest thing. Is like, I knew the massacre happened. Everybody knows it happens. You can watch it or something else to see if you really want to see that. But for me, it was like, we're going to show this in a way that we're going to give you everything you need to know. You're going to feel the massacre, but you're not going to see the bodies. One of the things, during my research, there's this picture of this. There's a wagon, and it's full of black people, dead black people. And there's this little girl at the top of it. And she's like, and her head is turning. It's literally like she's looking at you. And she looks like a doll. And no, it was in a documentary. And this little girl was talking about when she was a kid, how she looked at that girl and thought, like, she's just a doll laying there dead, But she looks like a doll to me. And in my head, I was thinking, as a kid, she sees a doll, and all I kept seeing as an adult was a life gone. But and it made me think of like a horror story of like of all those recent horror stories of us, them, they, or whatever you want to call it. And all I kept thinking when I did that research was that I never want to see that. I don't want to see that body in this. I don't want kids. I don't want even adults to see bodies. And so when showing the massacres as well as Stacy did, that was my biggest thing, was that I want you to feel it, but I want you, if you need to see bodies, then you're going to visualize it on your own, just like you do in comics. In between the panels, when you see action, you're going to see that on your own. But I wanted to also, when I was writing, I wanted to make sure that the fire that engulfs this part of the city, I wanted to make sure that represented not just the fire that burned down the city, but I wanted it to feel like readers to understand that the same fire was hate, and that's what that fire personified. It was hate, and that it kept building and building until it destroyed everything. And out of those ashes came love,
Right.
Came this resilience to want to survive, because that's what Black people do. We survive. And that was something that me and Stacy still talk about, that ending. And then we find out we both don't want the same ending. Like, we want to see some fight back. And that was something that I also wanted to make sure that people understood, was that the people of Greenwood did just lay down and just like, oh, we're just gonna let everything get destroyed and be like every other, how they try to portray us as being docile and dominant. One minute we're hostile and angry, but the next minute we're docile and we're just letting everything be destroyed. I wanted people to understand we didn't let this happen. It was a systematic erasure. And it wasn't just like white men doing it. It was families, white men, white women, sometimes white children, but it was a whole town systematically erasing another part of town. And it didn't just happen like in this idea of this, like this bubble where, oh, Black people just didn't have guns, so they couldn't fight back, or to a degree we had the guns, we just didn't have the resources. When they started dropping bombs on you, that's air power over basically you could say air power over a musket. It just can't compare the two. So for me, it was about, when showing the story, it was about showing people that this happened, it occurred, but that you don't need the bodies to know that it happened.
Right. And I don't think people realize those subtle things are important, because just those small details creates a completely different narrative. Like, because I made a point to remind myself, okay, what is it that I saw on television, and what am I seeing here? And I know there's some very key points. There's some key pages. There's some key scenes that I did not see on on television or in film or anything like that. There's no talk of, like, you guys depicted a scene where when they fight the lynch mob that's going to lynch this young man that was accused of assaulting a white woman. There's no reference to that scene of them actually, fighting that mob, which is before the actual attack on the town occurs. There's no talk like we've said over and over again. There's no talk of the rebuilding, but there's also no talk of how these members of this community were armed and were trying to protect their homes and things like that. It's like, so the scenes that you drew, Stacy, like, these are scenes that weren't necessarily depicted. Like, by and large, we saw, the trauma. Like, all I saw, is that there was a whole bunch of Black folks running around, getting shot in their back, just people just laying down, burning in their homes, all these different scenes of, not to say that some of that stuff I'm sure happened, but it's just the fact that it tells a totally different story just by leaving those, these small details out. You could tell a whole nother story just by,
yeah, absolutely. One of the things I did was, as a storytelling device, was when the violence starts happening, I position the viewer many times on the side of Black people, right? So
okay.
when they gather up their guns, they meet in front of the theater, right? You're in that crowd with them.
You're in the crowd, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
when they're marching down, you know, you got some figures yelling back to other figures. They're yelling back at you, the reader, right?
Yeah.
So and there's this other scene where there's a double page spread. You're seeing what's happening outside the windows. It's one of my favorite set of pages in the book. And you see like this black couple with guns. Well, guess what? You are there inside the house with them. So whether you agree or whether if you are on the side of white supremacy or if you are on the side of black self-defense, as a reader, you are on the side of black people. You have no choice, right? You are going to feel what these black people felt. And I wasn't there, right? So I'm going to, I did the best of my ability to tell this story well and make you feel what we feel when we think about the District of Greenwood. This was our Wakanda, right? I love saying that. I love saying that because we're always asking questions about Wakanda. Well, when are we gonna have our own Wakanda? Well, we've had several Wakandas. We've had many Wakandas, and they've been destroyed with the help of government and the military and corporations, right? So, with that storytelling, like I said, that was one of my favorite things to be able to do in the book. I was going to make you feel what the residents feel, and I was going to make you be on our side. I say the collective our side, right? Because those are our ancestors, right? And you are going to feel what our ancestors felt.
No, I recall several pages just like that, and you're right. It's like there were several scenes. It was like there was a scene of a barbershop. You felt like you were in the chair.
Yeah.
That scene with Booker T. Washington, you feel like he's reaching his hand out to me.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's like you did several. Actually, I think we have the Booker T. Washington page. But yeah, it's like there's several pages where you drop. Yeah, that's the one. Then it's like you do that a lot, and I really enjoy that how you bring. So like that's my hook head right there in the foreground there. No, but like, and I enjoyed that a lot. It's sort of like you did an awesome job bringing people into that story. I want to go back to something when you keep saying like this is our Wakanda, but you also say that you do a lot of research on towns like this. Are there other examples of towns like Greenwood?
Yeah, two of my favorites are Rosewood, Florida, and the Move community, right? The commune in Philadelphia that was destroyed in the mid '80s, right? Okay. It is. We never have the lack of ability to unite. That's not the issue. People are like, when are black people going to unite? Black people always unite, right? We don't have issues. We never have issues uniting. Wu-Tang Clan is you might not think of the Wu-Tang Clan as like a community, but if you look at RZA's plan and you listen to Wu-Tang's lyrics, they have Black nationalist leanings. My seed grow with his seed, marry his seed. That's how we keep Wu-Tang money all up in the family, right? That's community. That is nationalist. RZA said, he talked to his crew. He said, give me a year of your life. And if my plan does not work, go back to drug dealing and what the things you've been doing. And the plan that he set up, according to the research that I've been doing, the plan that he set up with the record company, all members of the Wu-Tang Clan, they record on one label, right? But as individual artists, they all record on different labels, and they all can collaborate with whoever they want to collaborate with. That is some of the most powerful community building strategy ever. And if you look at the way they did mentorship, right? You got Wu-Tang Clan, but then you have GP Wu, you had Sons of Man, you had Killer Bees, right? You had all of these, and now you even have the children of the members of Wu-Tang, right? Who have formed a group as well. So saying all this to say, right, the ideas of us uniting, like these are examples of our Wakandas, right? It is not always that it has to be this large city or this large community or anything like that. It's not always that. It is sometimes it is a particular neighborhood. It is a particular crew with a vision, with a vision to free themselves and then free, those around them, and then, set up a legacy for their children, right? Mm-hmm. Those are many of the examples. There's so many other ones, but those are some of my favorite examples to look at and think about and to kind of bring into storytelling. Now, you're not going to see Wu-Tang Clan in this storytelling, right? But it is a major influence, and it, and in that particular
we did take a weird turn there from we went from Tulsa to Wu-Tang. That was
we did, but I mean
that's wonderful.
Yeah, you see, but you see it though, right? I mean, like
yes,
yeah.
especially in music, and I think people are so quick to dismiss what people in the music industry do because it's just considered just entertainment. But when you consider, I always like to tell people that the African American community, we have the hearts and minds of the American people, and the strides that we make in entertainment, you shouldn't dismiss what we do in media, because what we do in media has large ramifications. Like, we actually move the needle when we the things that we do in music industry affects not just the music industry, so it like that there's a trickle down effect there, and we should really be paying attention to and should be emulating some of their practices. Like, for instance, I've been thinking a lot about how athletes, professional athletes, especially NBA players, are a lot like the Pullman Porters of the Civil Rights Movement. It's like these are laborers. These are people, they're in labor. And as a union, as a united group of people, they have a lot of leverage and a lot of money. So it's like you can, we always, you got this idea of, shut up and dribble and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is, they're working class folk, and they have an ability to affect change, just like, certain, you had the sanitation workers strike, that was Dr. Martin Luther King was a part of before he passed away. You had, these are definitely significant changes in society that happen with the help of working class folks. And I'm starting to see athletes like that. They have an opportunity to, affect change. If we were to look at them like that instead of just entertainers, we could probably, really move this needle. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about, what something Jay-Z said. He said, all we got, all blacks got is sports and entertainment until we even, right? And he caught hell for working with the NFL when we were talking about striking, boycotting the NFL, and he struck a major deal with the NFL, and he caught some criticism for that before we even knew what his plan was, right? So, I think it's important to understand that we're not going to always be on the same side of the commentary, but many of us are fighting the fight from different vantage points, right? Sure. I've been highly critical of people who enter the military, to fight and colonize other countries, right, for the sake of America. But I also understand that for many people, the military is their only escape out of their particular circumstance, and is the way that they take care of their family, right? So we're all hustling. Like, I'm an academic, right? Like, I'm hustling. Like, my hustle is this academic life, and I don't have to, play the street game, right? My hustle is being very smart and drawing very fast, and being able to talk about it and being able to teach it, right? That's my hustle. And we're all hustling and we're all, surviving. Some of us are scratching more. Some of us are scratching and surviving. Some of us are doing it, more than others and harder than others. Some of it's legal and some of it's illegal. And as Angie Stone said, you got your Wall Street brother, your on the corner brother, you're down for whatever, chilling on the corner brother. We're all over the place. We're ubiquitous people, right? We're all over the place operating at the same time and operating these multiple ways of thinking about survival, So, I just wanted to share that.
No, please. That was wonderful. I want to make sure you guys can share what else. Well, first off, I wanted to see, can y'all see yourselves working together again?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. No. Listen, I already told you that one line that I did not like in the book that Alverne put in that book. I had that one line. I was like, no.
What did you do?
You know the line. Trust me. Every black person knows that line.
There's one line. I'm sure.
In the book. Right. Once we go public one day, there's gonna be asked. Then trust me.
It is so funny. There's this one line. It just pissed me off in the book.
It pissed all of us off.
But it's funny because I didn't know that. I didn't know that at first until Alverne said it too. It pissed him off too. But it's historically accurate, and that's why it's important.
It's probably something.
We're not gonna give it away.
Till we come together as a people or something like that.
No, I will say it's on the last page of the book. I will say that.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's the thing. No, Alverne and I have already talked about working together on another project. Okay. In this though, I also have so many other projects. Like we have Black Kirby projects that we're working on, like graphic novels. My agent is like, when are we gonna do your books? You doing books with everybody else. When we gonna do Stacy's book? So I talked to my agent about that and I pitched some ideas and I got to put together some things as well, So we will definitely work together soon. I'm going to try to get away some other. I want to secure some other fellowships, some other times where I can just concentrate on my research and making books. Making these graphic novels. Yeah.
No telling what'll come out. Give yourself 6 butts next time.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I got books that I started. For those who know, shouts out to Bill Campbell and Rosarium Publishing. Man, I got to finish Kid Code. Number 2, issue 2 is fully written. I started that years ago. I got to go back and redraw a lot of that because I've grown. We got to finish the 3rd issue. You know what I'm saying? So
you got to bring that over to Procreate, huh?
That's what I did across the tracks. And actually what I may do is I might use Clip Studio Paint because I've had that for years and never used it. My students reminded me this semester that I had it because they've been using
I'm a huge fan of Clip Studio Paint.
So yeah? Okay. Yeah. What did I say? Did I say it wrong? Clip Studio Paint. What is it?
No, you said it right.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
You're already good. It's like with your ability to tackle Procreate, like Clip Studio Paint is gonna be nothing.
Okay, I'm excited.
It's easy.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I'll definitely work with Alverne again. I got to figure out a way to do it all. And
and you gotta fit into Al's schedule because Al is all over the place too. What else you got going on aside?
Oh man. Besides,
you barely do comics anymore. You actually do.
No, I do. I still do comics. I still do a lot of them. I got my agent now has 1, 2, 3, about 2 or 3 graphic novel pitches I've already given her. My next graphic novel is most likely coming out next year. I got another. I adapted Othello to a graphic novel. And then I got a crime novel coming out in October from Vital Narrative Press, October 12th, I think. But the cover reveal will happen pretty soon. So, I got that. And then there's going to be an announcement soon. So I'll say it now. I basically, I got a illustrated crime novella an illustrated fantasy crime novella coming out next year. Contracts will be signed soon for that. So it's called The Butcher of Eataway. And so it's going to be a series of novellas that I'm going to write. And some other stuff I can't talk about just yet. But yeah, man, I'm doing comics, trust me.
I love it.
I'm doing something with Jason Reeves. I'm doing a manga that I wrote. Yeah, I'm doing a manga that I wrote with Jason Reeves of 133 Art. He's gonna publish it. It's called Kaiden. So that's already written. So we're gonna start production on that soon. And I got some webcomic stuff that I'm working on that's gonna come out pretty soon. So I'm always writing. Trust me, I'm always doing comics.
I love it when people tell me, say, "Oh, there's a lot of stuff I'm working on. I can't tell you about." Yeah. That makes it gets me even more excited. It's like I can't know. Right. No, but and then how can they find your work and where can people find your work right now? Aside from Megascope, I would encourage everybody to check out the full line of Megascope books. You got Across the Tracks. You also have Hard Ear.
Yeah, Hard Ears. Black Star just dropped today.
Black Star, okay. So you have Black Star. You also have
After the Rain. Yeah,
After the Rain.
Already out.
There's so much.
Yeah.
And I know I'm missing some, but yeah, there's at least 4 books out right now.
Yeah, there are 4 right now.
Yeah, there's only 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think Chuck Collins is over there. There's a ton of people that I've worked with that have snuck over there, and I'm anxious to check out everybody's work. We're out of time, so we're ready to roll out. But I appreciate you guys. Follow us at peepgamecomics.com for all your Black Comics news. Thanks, guys.